Hey everybody, it's your old pal Steve Moore here, owner of RUNMOORE, this spectacular brick and mortar running shop located in Westminster, Maryland. Today we're going to be talking about the Newton Fate 10. Newton, if you're not familiar, is like an old school running brand coming out of Boulder, Colorado. We actually, when we opened our shop in 2014, we were a proud Newton dealer and we've kind of dabbled in Newton a lot over the years. It's a very unique brand and you don't bump into them a lot in just out in the wild or in even run specialty shops. There's just not a lot of places that still carry Newton. And you know, I think because it is something that is so different and really something that you kind of sort of have to educate the consumer about, because it's not a shoe you can just kind of pick up and go out and run in without, quite honestly, like a conversation, which is unique because most shoes you can, for the most part, take out and go for a run. They're shoes, but this is like a shoe that you kind of have to give like a little bit of, okay, this is what the shoe's gonna feel like and why it's designed the way it is, because there's nothing like a Newton. So let's first kind of get into some of the specs on this. This is a $150 shoe. On the men's side, it is 8.2 ounces, and on the women's, it's 6.8 ounces. It has a 4.5 millimeter drop, and the midsole has Newton's premium Newtonium midsole, which is their own proprietary sort of soft and poppy midsole. But really, that's not really what makes Newton Newton's. Newton's claim to fame is these lugs that set out the side. This is their sort of air pockets that are designed to kind of get you up on your toe and get you a little more explosive. The idea is being sort of they contract and expand as you land on your forefoot. And each Newton sort of has its own level of poppiness. Actually, they used to grade their shoes based on the level of pop. So they had a pop 1, pop 2, pop 3, depending on how much the forefoot sat out and how much the heel set low. So some people that are familiar with Newton might be more familiar with their most popular model, which is the Gravity. This is one of my old Gravities that I grabbed. This is what's called a Pop 1. It has a lower drop, the lugs stick out a little bit more, it weighs a little bit less, costs a little bit more, but this is sort of what a huge chunk of their sales comes from. This is what started their brand. You know, it costs a little bit more and might be designed for somebody who's a little more serious. We see a lot of triathletes in it. People are doing longer runs. You don't see a lot of just like, I'm getting into running, I'm gonna pick up a $180 pair of Newtons and give them a go. Like, it's not an entry-level shoe. I think that's one of the reasons why we always actually carried the Fate at our store, because it was much more of an introductory level Newton. This was called a Pop 2. So this is like a mid-cushion everyday trainer from Newton. So like, really, you know, when you're pulling, if you were to just pull this against other shoes in this category, you would say like, oh, you know, a Brooks Ghost is a neutral mid-cushion category shoe. If you put on a Brooks Ghost and then you popped on a Newton, you'd be like, these don't come from the same planet. These are completely different things, but really sort of the target distance and such kind of come from the same place, but just a totally unique experience. I will say I hadn't run in Newtons in a long time. I've been trying so many other things and I just hadn't put my foot in a Newton in a long time, and I was excited to get this bad boy out. I first came up with the phrase, my Ricky Bobby shoes, you know, like I wanna go fast, when I put on Newtons, because really, it's kind of hard to go slow in a Newton. Like, it wants you to get up on your toes. It wants you to go. I've been doing a lot of miles and getting ready for a longer race, and I've just been kind of feeling beat up, and I put on my Newtons, I put on the fresh pair of Fates, and I made my Newton face, which is this. It's just an enjoyable, pleasant experience, and it's unlike any other shoe out there. I feel fast and I feel efficient, I feel light, and it's just a different running sensation. I will say the other thing that I always liked about Newtons, and you know, if you watch my videos a lot, I talk about like things bothering my feet. I've got all kinds of foot issues going on right now, and I was honestly a little worried about even taking this guy out for a run because I've just been so sensitive about what's gonna irk my feet lately. But I was able to put these guys on, and even though they sort of look more narrow, and even though they have so much pressure sort of on the forefoot to get you going, and that's where a lot of my issues are right now, zero problems going through this shoe. I can get this on and go. It's light, it's breathable. I will say I wish the sizing was just a pinch longer. I always kind of felt Newtons ran a pinch long, but on this one, it was like maybe just a smidge short. I'm usually an 11.5. I probably could have done an 11.75, which doesn't exist in the wild, but that's probably where I needed to be. But I thought the shoe itself was really fast, really fun, and really enjoyable. I will say, just on a personal level though, I don't know if I could make this my everyday trainer. If I was just doing, if I was just training for like a 10K and such, I would say that this shoe would probably be in my rotation, but not an everyday shoe. For like me personally, the miles that I'm doing, where this would live for me, it would be more of like a speedy day shoe. This isn't gonna be a recovery day shoe for me. It probably isn't even a junk mile shoe for me, just because I want something that's a little more cushiony underfoot. But man, if I just wanna turn something fast, there's just not a lot of things in my arsenal that are as fun as this shoe, because so many of my shoes are now becoming similar to each other. Like when I'm looking at my shoe rotation, it's like, do I want to take this version of that same shoe or that version of that same shoe? And again, not to knock anybody behind me, but like that's sort of the direction that our industry is going. So this being that such a unique shoe, it gives you a unique run. A couple things that I wish that Newton would do differently, and not just on the Fate, but sort of across the board, is like, if you've been a Newton person for a while, you've probably seen almost identical color scheme of this. Like a lot of the Newtons all coming out looking very similar, and in fact, they've even gotten away from using the pop system like I talked about. I wish they would go back to it because it would make it a little bit easier for a consumer to understand the differences between the levels. So like going back to what I would still consider a Pop 1 shoe with the highest lugs in the Gravity, to your Pop 2 shoe, which is your Fate. And then we had the AHA, and we have the Isaac, which we consider Pop 3. The lugs are almost flush and there's more cushion to it. They weigh a little bit more, but we used to call these like the Pop 3s is like your entry level Newton. I think some of those little things on the shoes like they used to do to give some indications as to what it is without needing a staff member to pick it up, because old school Newtons used to have the drop written on the shoe and it used to have the pop level written on the shoe. But now that's sort of gone away, and you really do need somebody to kind of educate you, I hate to say it, onto what the differences are. Because if you did just pick this up because it was listed as a mid-cushion trainer, you might have a great time in it, but it also might confuse the crap out of you. Because honestly, even hearing that it's a 4.5 millimeter drop, like when it's living in its natural state with the lugs, it almost becomes like a negative drop shoe. When you stand just naturally in it, you kind of go like this, not like this. So it just needs a little bit of talking points to it. But I said the color schemes have been very similar. The breathable mesh upper I love, but it's been very similar model to model. I also would say, like, just because the people that wear Newtons that I've noticed are very loud and proud Newton people, I would just love to see a little more like in-your-face Newton vibe on it. Look, I'm not a huge aesthetics guy normally, but I think it would do them a little bit, it would help them a little bit by just changing the look of the upper a little bit. Don't take away what makes you Newton, but like just give it a little more pizzazz, because honestly, I was looking at this shoe and I go, this looks identical to, I couldn't remember if it was my Fate 4 or 5 that was the exact same color scheme, and really, if you closed your eyes, it would look almost identical to it. Another thing that I noticed that was different from this Fate 10 to some of my previous ones, there was a period where I felt like Newton was going very heavy into the recycled parts to it, and they still do. When you look on the removable insert here, it talks about how 7 water bottles were made to kind of make some of this shoe here, that they're really big in the recycling portion of it, which is great. But I'm trying to find a better word, but I couldn't come up with them. When you stepped into some of the older Fates, it felt a little, I hate saying cheapy, but it almost felt a little like the cushion just was hollowy, like it felt not as premium. It didn't, and especially because some of the shoes are in that $180 range, like you put it on and it felt like it was missing something. But I actually felt like this felt a little denser, not in like a heavy clunky way, but it felt like a little more premium, a little more like I'm getting value in this shoe, because not only is it really fun and it fits nice and wide, which I need, but it feels like I can get more miles out of it. And I will say that is one nice thing with most Newtons. Like one of my best friends had a pair of the old Gravities and he put 1,200 miles on them. Like he beat the crap out of them. And there is a occasional person who will pop a lug. Maybe they step on something sharp, or you'll see some water seep in there. It's far and few between. I actually find their shoes are pretty darn durable. So that's a nice positive thing. And by feeling that the cushion's a little more premium, I think it's a pretty nice option for $150. So anyway, that's my thoughts on the Newtons. If you've been a Newton person over the years, I'd love to get your thoughts on sort of the direction they're going. And if you've tried the new Fate 10, leave them down below, because I know there's not tons of Newton diehards out there, but I know that some of you are out there, are like super excited about the new update. So let me know your thoughts on it down below in the comments. And hey, if you're in the greater Westminster, Maryland area, stop on by and say hello. There's a good chance that you'll catch me here. And if you want to purchase this fine shoe, we'll leave a link down below. And if you enter promo code RUNMOORE, you'll save 10% and we'll ship it out for free. Hey, happy running. Thanks so much for watching our channel, and hopefully we'll see you around town.